Good evening. This is Namjoti with Blue Cypress School of Holism and Blue Cypress Botanicals, and I wanted to just hop on YouTube. It's been a while since I've given any kind of garden update. It's August and we've been in a very severe drought really all year, and we've also been doing a full front garden renovation. We tore the old fence down, we tore down all the beds, we've rebuilt new beds, and I have basically been living in the garden lately. I've been working very hard. I've been hauling rocks and building walls and working with mortar, which I have no experience doing, and getting a little bit better, I must say, after building maybe 6 or 7 beds now. It seems to be getting a little bit easier, but man, I have enough respect for people who build walls. You stonemasons out there, y'all really have a huge skill that is not easy to sort out on your own. So let's just walk around the garden, see what's going on. Things are definitely still in transition, but some things are looking really happy. Some things are looking like little baby seedlings. So let's just check in with the garden and see what it's looking like now that we're in September. Oh my goodness, it's not August, it's actually September 2nd. So let's look around. So for now, we've kept this old door from the old garden, and let's just walk in and look around. So all of this space, you can see the fence goes around, and on Instagram, I had put some videos of the very beginnings of this renovation, so you can kind of compare those old reels or old videos that I made on Instagram at Blue Cypress Botanicals to what we have happening now. I think the last update that I gave was we had just finished this long bed, and then I had moved on to building this other long bed, and you can see that the bed is getting shorter because man, look at all the stones. All of these stones came from around our property, and so it's a matter of loading up the wheelbarrow, carrying stones from all over our land, and bringing them over here and then stacking them and working with the mortar. So you can imagine that sometimes less is more when it comes to building a stone wall. 3 layers is a lot easier than 4, so I've kind of gone in that direction right now. I moved a canna. I actually just moved these 2 cannas from the backyard yesterday, and I really like the way they look. I didn't put them in the beds because cannas have a tendency to really spread and take over, so I wanted them to do that directly in the ground instead of inside of any of the beds. So just walk around the different beds and see what's going on. I have a bunch of beans. I've planted hundreds of green beans and some other like general beans that grow well at the end of the summer, moving into the fall. There's some oregano, that's a chili piquin. There's some sages and rosemaries and some oregano that just haven't come back yet. I don't know if they're even alive anymore. These are some passion vine roots that I dug up, and they're just kind of sitting there. I need to mail some out to people, and I might plant them around. Here's some little baby broadleaf sage. I'm trying to get really organized by leaving little signs that I've made that I've wood burned. But this is some broadleaf sage that I started inside and that I moved outside about maybe a week ago, and it seems to be doing well. Some scarlet sage that was a surprise because I haven't planted that this year, but it kind of popped up, I guess, from the last couple of years. Rosebush, henna tree, red trumpet vines, rosebush, pomegranate tree, Brazilian rock rose. So this bed, I didn't really build it up that much because I was just, I figured that the things that are in the ground here can tolerate our soil here in the Texas Hill Country. Like the henna tree, for example. This tree, believe it or not, is about 4 years old. Let me pull up, these little weeds bother me. But this tree is about 4 years old, but it hasn't had its permanent home. Now that it has a really permanent home, it's begun to leaf out again, and I'm excited to see what it does now that it's not going to be moved anymore. I planted some hollyhocks back there. You can see them just popping up just to see if I can get them to grow here. In Texas, I've never had success trying to grow hollyhocks, and I really want to grow them. So I figured maybe they might grow in the full sun as the weather gets a bit cooler. This is some late corn that I've planted. The corn over here hasn't even germinated yet, but I planted just a late summer / fall crop of corn to see if it would work. So it's this is an experimental bed. And I put a bunch of beans over here that will climb up the new fence. I just really want to utilize this space as best I can. Here's some fall tomatoes. Those are Roma tomatoes and a honeysuckle that I moved. Here's a fig tree that I relocated as well. Another fig tree. Our figs did not do well this year. I don't know if it's because we didn't have any wasps. I mean, we have wasps all over, but I think that maybe they didn't do their job inside of the figs. I don't know. I've never really had much success growing figs, and maybe it's because I give them too much attention, because I've seen wild figs just going crazy and growing wild, you know? So maybe if I leave them alone, they'll do better. This is some Hibiscus roselle that I just recently grew from seed. I started inside and then I transplanted. I was growing 2 plants per little pot. So I just transplanted that today into their own individual little pots to get some Hibiscus roselle, or, you know, sorrel growing. And I'll keep those in pots and keep them inside because I don't want them to die in the cold weather. The Peggy Rose got eaten. It was like decimated by leafcutter ants, and so it's just now leafing back out. I'm glad that it survived. I think this is a pumpkin that someone gifted me. These are some kind of squashes. I know this one for sure is a zucchini because it has a little zucchini. It's really probably too small to see, but there is a zucchini growing on this, and maybe this is patty pan because I had such a horrible time in the spring with the squash bugs that I didn't have any squashes, so I wanted to try again. And so far, knock on stone, I haven't seen any squash bugs. The passion vine is doing great as always. These are some shishito peppers, again, gifted by a friend, and they're really producing a lot and doing really well. This is a bell pepper. There's one beautiful bell pepper there. And really this garden had to start all over because I pulled all the beds apart. I relocated plants. Some of them died. I started a bunch of new plants inside. So I'm really happy with how this bed is looking. There's the yarrow, the same yarrow I transplanted back into this bed. There's a cardinal creeper. I really like them, and the only ones I've grown have been in the backyard garden where there's not a lot of sun. So I'm interested to see what this vine will do. Let me get a little closer. What the vine will do when it is in full direct sun. There's another little Roma tomato. See my sign to remind me of what it is. This is some black creme tomatoes that are doing really well. They're starting to put out flowers. So hopefully we will have some sort of elusive fall tomato. Maybe it won't elude me this fall like it has every other fall. These fall tomatoes I've been hearing about. This is all basil, which is very, very healthy. And I'm trying to get it to, I'm not trying to get it to, but I'm leaving it alone because I've been harvesting a lot of it and drying it through the summer. But I would really like to distill some of it because my husband bought me a copper still for my birthday and I haven't used it yet. So when this basil flowers, I'm going to distill it. This is kind of the mint bed. There's some peppermint here, spearmint. I've planted some marigolds and moved some celosia just because it's so beautiful and just calling in the pollinators with those pretty flowers. And then this was a surprise. I threw a bunch of lemon balm seeds, and then there's all these little tiny lemon balms popping up. And I have not had any success with direct sowing lemon balm, so I'm really happy about that. I love that the marigolds are getting bigger. I just direct sowed those as well a couple weeks ago. Here's some of those celosia flowers that are really pretty. And a word about our little friends over here. This guy is a new bunny that we actually just brought here yesterday. He came to live here, and all of the rabbits right now are hanging out with me in the garden. I relocated all of them to the garden because I feel like I want to see them every day. They're much more social with me, and some of them with each other, like Opal and Violet, are housed together again. And the whole intention of having the rabbits in the garden is so that I can give them more fresh food and come over and talk to them more so they can just have visitors. And also, we are getting ready to build a rabbit colony where they can all live together. Well, there'll be 2 separate colonies, and I actually wrote an article on that. If you go to my website, there are some blue cypress letters that I just started in the members area. You can become a member for $5 a month, and you can see like what the plans are for the goats and the rabbits and a lot of the detailed stuff that we have going on the homestead. And I really love writing, so it's a nice place for me to just have an outlet for that and to give you all more like precise information about what our plans are out here. This is Buddy Boy. He's one of our bucks. Opal and Violet are our breeding does. Our new bunny we named Falcor, after a dog that we love so much. And also, what was the name of that show, that movie with the never-ending story? Yeah. And then Wimberly's in here. You can kind of see her. Wimberly's very shy. She doesn't like to be called out, so we'll leave her alone. But eventually the bunnies will all move into their new colony right around breeding time. I hope to have the colonies finished by October, and we'll start having babies hopefully by November. All right, so in this long bed, so a lot of the plants that I put over here were already really kind of established or direct sown. Like these squash plants were already small plants when I put them in the ground. The zucchini and the patty pan I direct sowed from seed, but it's been probably about a month since I started this bed over here and put things in it. And the other bed that we're about to look at hasn't had that long. Oh, but here are some green beans. These ones are really pretty. They have the little purple flowers, but I don't remember what they are. I don't think they're those hyacinth beans, but they kind of look like them. But I don't remember planting those. I think that there's some kind of variety of green bean, but they've really gotten quite tall. They're probably about almost up to my waist, to give you a bit of perspective. And there's more passion flower. All right, so this is the bed I was talking about that just isn't as old. So the plants, a lot of them I started inside. The beans I direct sowed all along the trellis, and then the pumpkins and squashes I also direct sowed. I've always thought that pumpkins were a cold weather crop, but they're really not. They're frost sensitive, so when it gets cold, the pumpkins will die. Good morning. I actually lost that video, or I didn't lose it, but it actually stopped. Yesterday when I was recording, it was like 5 in the evening and my phone just got too hot, so it cut off. So we're just gonna pick up where we left off over at the pumpkins, and then we'll talk a little bit afterwards. So this is where we left off yesterday. These are various pumpkins and then some winter squash, which winter squash is also frost sensitive. So when it gets cold, the winter squash and the pumpkins will all die. So I started these pumpkins right around the end of August just to see if they can produce before we get our first real cold snap, which usually doesn't happen here in the Texas Hill Country until maybe November. Here is some Swiss chard that I just direct sowed. And again, here's a bunch of green beans, all kinds of green beans that I placed along the trellises. You might be able to hear the ducks. They're very talkative. I just got done watering the garden and milking the goats and feeding the goats and doing some of my morning chores. And the ducks are very talkative in the morning time. Here's some lettuce. We got to get in close to see the lettuce. There's some pink lettuce that I started inside and then moved it out here. Arugula, which I direct sowed. Mustard greens, which I also direct sowed. Here's a rogue passion vine that's trying to pop up, actually a couple of them. And I love passion vine, but one thing that I don't like about it is how it really, I mean, I like it and I don't like it. It kind of takes over. So it's nice because it spreads out and it gets really beautiful and big. But the downside of that is that when you don't want it popping up like in the middle of your mustard greens, it does that too. And it has this, it puts out what I think, I'm not sure of the exact anatomy. See, here's another one. I think it puts out a rhizome, but it definitely puts out these runners that just run all over the garden. So it really originated back here at the trellis. Now it's run into the middle of the bed. So I'm gonna have to dig that up, try to find the root. Here's some collard greens, and the collard greens I started inside and moved them out here. And this is kind of experimental as well, because usually I don't plant my mustard greens or collard greens until later in the fall season when it really cools down. But I thought that maybe I would try to give these guys a head start. So hopefully they don't bolt or really suffer because of the heat. Here's more of those fall tomatoes. Some of these are called pineapple tomatoes, which I've never grown, and then some of them are Romas, but this one looks really healthy. I don't know which one that is. There's a thornless blackberry that I placed against the trellis because I really want it to climb and do its thing in the spring. Here's some kale, like a kale mix that I also planted. I think I started that inside and then moved it out here about a week ago. So that's pretty much it for this bed. And you can see, you know, this bed, the plants in this bed are older than the plants in this bed. So I like that too, because we'll have some stuff that's ready now. Like yesterday evening, I made a really good rabbit stew. A local friend gave us a couple of rabbits that they butchered, just so we can see if we even like rabbit meat, because we are raising our rabbits for meat as well, but we have never actually slaughtered any of them at this point because we're focused on breeding right now. And breeding was really a mess this winter. And if you want to learn more about that, you can go to the members area of my website, and I wrote a whole essay on our plan for the meat rabbits and what's happened over the last couple of years of raising them. We've lost a lot of bunnies. So we're trying to remedy that by putting them in a colony. But a local neighbor gave us 2 rabbits. And so we had rabbit tacos for dinner 2 nights ago. And last night we had a rabbit stew. So it was really nice to come out here and grab a bell pepper and a couple other herbs and stuff from the garden. So I'm happy to be able to eat from the garden again. And I really look forward to this fall and winter when I plan to be eating 99.9% of my food from the land. So this bed, I just brought these plants out here. I actually just built this bed yesterday. So it was a lot of work. It was all day working. And you know, I have pretty sloppy stonework, but the whole point is for these beds to be functional. And I think they're beautiful too, but the main point is for them to hold soil, hold water, hold food, and they do serve that purpose. Here are some little baby Brussels sprouts that I moved out here. These guys have been inside under the grow lights for the past maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And I felt like maybe they were under the grow lights a little bit too long because they were all starting to get pretty leggy. So I wanted to build this bed. The main motivation for getting out here and working so hard was to get these plants in the ground because I felt like they were ready and they were maybe becoming stunted by being inside too long. Here's more of that pink lettuce. You have to really look close to see these guys, but as time goes on, you know, plants grow really quickly. There's some lettuce mix and some amico cabbage, which looks kind of like a Napa cabbage to me. So I'm excited to see these guys when they get bigger. And the seeds from the amico cabbage were white. They look like little pearls. They're so beautiful, those seeds. I planted one lonely little purple cauliflower, and then there's some broccoli back there. More broccoli, the Romanesco, which looks really crazy when it grows. And I've never had success growing broccoli at all, ever. So we'll see how that goes. There's a, oh, I was trying to catch that mud dauber, but he flew away. This is pretty interesting. I've been writing an essay about life and death on the homestead, and these are all rabbit skulls. They're actually rabbit skulls that I found on the property as I was going around collecting stones. But it must be where we buried some rabbits and maybe predators dug them up. But as you can see, we've lost quite a few rabbits. And some of them we lost to just fright. I believe that because there were raccoons in the backyard hunting the rabbits, and their houses are very secure. You know, a raccoon can't get into this, but rabbits are easily frightened, and they can be scared to death. Like, they can be so scared that they throw their back out and they actually break their back. That's one way that a rabbit can be scared to death. So at least 2 of our rabbits I know died from fright, and they were 2 of our breeders. Like, mostly what we had before was breeders because we were having a hard time keeping the kits alive, keeping the babies alive. And I think that that was another part of it, was that, like, one of our rabbits ate some of her babies, or ate like pieces of them. And I think that was because she didn't feel safe. And we can talk more about rabbits later, but I've actually heard that the first couple of litters from rabbits are known to not survive. And then from like the 3rd litter on, they usually do really well. So hopefully this is our year. Here's a vitex tree that I moved from the backyard. That is a wisteria. There's some gumphrenas left over from the summer. A lot of them were cut back when I was transplanting. A lot of them, the flowers started to die, and so I cut them way down. But gumphrenas are perennial, which I didn't know until this year when some of my gumphrenas came back, but they're perennial here in this area. So I'm looking forward to this bed being really full of gumphrenas next year. And I threw a bunch of seed, random flower seeds, marigolds, some bunny tails, some foxglove. This is really an experimental bed as well. I guess all of the beds are an experiment until they become a success, you know. There's some honeysuckle. So I'm just really trying to see what will grow over in this bed. And I built that bed out of some like leftover bricks that our neighbor was throwing out. And let's just go over to this little front edge. Oh, here's our pond, our gray water pond. And you can see the plants are doing really well. We had our first lotus flower that bloomed this summer, and I made a post about that on Instagram, and I think I put a picture of that lotus flower on the home page of the website at bluecypressschool.org. And I know I keep mentioning the website, but I'm really trying to make an effort to be off of Instagram more than I'm on it. So I've been taking a little break, and really the best place where you can find me and all the information about what I'm doing and what I'm making and what I'm learning is on my website. I'm trying to move everything over there. So you see, these are the lotus lily pads and some other pond lilies that I don't know what color they are because they haven't bloomed yet. This is some kind of a grass, maybe, I'm not sure. I think that we got that from a neighbor who had a pond. But this is where the gray water from our house comes down underground and up and into this water tank. And then the plants, the idea is for the plants to filter that water, which it's been working because the water used to be really stinky and dirty, but now it's not. It's like brown, you know, but it looks like pond water. And the plants have really gotten themselves established. You can see, like, here in this kind of mass underneath, there's a bunch of roots and stuff. You can even see some roots here. And then when this tank gets full, we open it up and it's attached to a hose, and we can use that water that's been filtered by the plants to water the garden with that. as well as our rainwater tank is back there. So the garden is primarily watered with rainwater. Thank goodness that we got some rain, because before we've had a couple of thunderstorms. We've had maybe 2 good thunderstorms over the last month or so, and our rainwater tank was able to fill almost all the way back up. And so this is the pump house for the rainwater, and then that orange arrow that my husband built, he made this whole, like, you can see there's really a thin line of fishing line. So when the tank is empty, the arrow is way at the top, and as the water comes in and fills up the tank, the arrow comes down, because this fishing line is attached to like an empty gallon of, like an empty water gallon that sits inside the tank, and it just kind of floats at the water level, so we can see if the level is high or low. And right now it's right about in the middle, and that's only because we've had some rain, because for months and months and months our rainwater tank has been completely dry and empty. Oh, here's one of those Brazilian rock rose flowers opened up. I think they're so beautiful, and I wonder if maybe the rock rose is in the hibiscus family, because it looks like the flowers look like hibiscus or some sort of a mallow. Everything's really happy because I just watered. Then right over here, oh, here's another. I found this skull. This deer skull was on the land when I was moving stones as well. And we have a real close relationship with death here on the homestead, because, you know, death it stands right there beside life. So we don't shy away from sharing information about the deaths that happen here, or even just the deaths that we experienced in the winter when several of our relatives died. My mother passed, and both of my husband's grandmothers passed. And we're very open about our relationship with death, because it's important. It's really important to talk about death. So whenever I find skulls around the property, I just bring them into the garden and set up small altars around, just to honor that death is ever present as well, standing right here beside us as we live. There's a honeysuckle that I moved, a rose bush that I hope comes back. There's a desert rose that I'm just keeping in a pot because I'll need to move it inside, just like how I'll do with the Hibiscus roselle. It's another vitex that I just recently moved from the backyard, because as you can see, the house renovations are still in progress, and we had to move part of the fence back, and so I needed to relocate some trees. This is the peach cot, and the leafcutter ants really love this peach cot tree. It's a cross between a peach and an apricot, and so it was decimated just like the climbing Peggy Rose by the leafcutter ants, so it's really in recovery, but I think it'll be just fine. This is a dragon fruit that a dear friend gave me, and it laid dormant inside of the house all winter. I brought it out in the spring, and it's really doing well. It's growing. There's a potted goji berry that needs to go in the ground as soon as I can figure out where to put it. And then there's that is a Pride of Barbados. So everything is really in transition because it's all been relocated. That cactus is a Bolivian torch that one of my kids gave me for my birthday. All right, so there's the garden update. And you guys, really, this garden is becoming the garden of my dreams. I feel so grateful to be on this land and to have the space to now grow a lot more food. Before, I was growing a lot of stuff, but we weren't really able to support our family through the produce that we were growing. And like I mentioned before, it really is my intention. Some of you know that over the spring and early summer, I went on a local only diet. We slaughtered one of our goats, which was the real inspiration for that. And when we slaughtered that goat, I got to thinking, you know, it really would be awesome to just live off of the land as much as possible. So I started out just doing it for a week, and I was just eating goat meat and wild hog that my husband hunted, and some other wild meat and food from the garden. At that time, I had a lot of cucumbers and tomatoes, and of course the passion flowers were a really nice addition. And I was milking Argent, so I had some goat's milk, but I didn't have enough milk to make cheese because it takes a gallon of milk to make one batch of cheese. So I was getting cheese from a good friend of mine who was milking more goats, and she had a lot of cheese. And then I was volunteering at a local farm where I could get some produce, like some different squashes, because my squashes got eaten by the squash bugs. And I think I did have like maybe 1 or 2 little patty pans that came out of my garden. But I was able to really feed myself off of even that limited amount of food that we were getting in the summertime. And I felt incredible. I really felt better than I felt on any other protocol that I've tried as far as diet, even really GAPS. I felt better eating just from the land and locally from local homesteading friends and local farming friends. So I would really like to do that again on a more full-time basis. Before, I did it for about a month, and I didn't go to the grocery store at all, and I felt awesome, and I was home in the gardens and with the animals. And so I would really like to dedicate myself to growing as much food as possible. And you know, we have eggs from the chickens, we have chicken, duck, goat, rabbit meat, and wild hog, of course, is always an option because they're so invasive everywhere. And it felt really good. It felt really, really ethical, and it just felt like it's the way I want to live, you know. So I'm putting my focus and attention towards that, and I would love to be able to harvest all of our produce from our garden. So that's the intention, and I'll be sending this video out today. Today is Saturday, September 3rd, and I'll be sending this video. I'm trying to find the sun. I'll be including this video of the garden update with my September newsletter, or I guess it's not the official newsletter. I'll send a newsletter out on Monday, but today I'm sending out an email to the mailing list on the website for a broom raffle. There's some kind of airplane. It's noisy this morning. So in that email that I'm getting ready to send out, probably within the next hour or so, I'll be talking about a September broom raffle. So I'll be giving away a broom, and you can enter the raffle by following the prompts in the email. If you're not on the mailing list, go to bluecypressschool.org and you can join the mailing list. And because I am trying to not be on Instagram, I don't have a Facebook, but I find that Instagram was just taking a lot of my time and energy, and Instagram tends to feel very competitive to me. Just the energy around the way that it operates. And you know, a good measure of competition is good, but Instagram is not the healthiest platform for me to be on a lot. So I am reducing the amount of time that I'm on that and focusing more on these intimate connections with the people on the mailing list, and writing these letters and kind of documenting what we have going on the homestead. And a lot of my Blue Cypress letters involve talking about the things that have gone wrong. You know, like, how else are you supposed to get better at doing this thing that you're trying to learn other than learning from your mistakes? So I do share a lot of those mistakes because we've made a lot of mistakes over the past few years. And we got very serious about homesteading right around 2020, of course. But it's just such a good way to live. So I talk about where we've been with the goats, with the chickens, with the ducks, with the pigs, with the gardens, with the rabbits, and where we're going. I also share the different books that I'm reading and why I'm reading them. I tend to read several books at a time, in addition to like listening to audiobooks while I work. And I learn a lot from books. It's actually my preferred method of learning, is to really research books and old crafts, and to learn that way. Let's see. There's also a henna course that I'll be announcing that's available for purchase starting on Monday, September 5th. I have some different events that I'll be attending locally, and you can find out where those will be and what's entailed in those. And I have a really exciting announcement about a teaching opportunity that I have in November for those of you who would like to come and study with me in person. And it's a henna course. So there's a lot going on. So to find out what's changing, what's new, what's been happening, I would suggest the best way to do that is to visit the website. And there's lots of stuff that's available on the website for free, my different musings and recipes and things like that. There are a bunch of goods that you can purchase. And my new endeavor is the member area, where you can create an account, and for $5 a month, you can see all of these other options for seeing what's going on and what's coming. Okay, so that website is bluecypressschool.org. And if you want to see my work on Instagram, that's Blue Cypress Botanicals. And again, you can sign up for the mailing list. When you go to the website, bluecypressschool.org, there'll be a little pop-up window. So if you're not on the mailing list already, you can get on the mailing list. That doesn't cost a thing. And you'll be able to receive these emails and newsletters and updates and learn about the Broom Raffle and all of that. Okay. Thank you for watching this video. It's pretty long. It's kind of a two-part video, Friday and Saturday. And go on over. You have, probably about an hour or so after this posts where you can go and sign up for the mailing list if you're not up there already. And then you'll get the email that I'll send out today. So, all right. I hope that wherever you are, you're having a great day. Happy weekend. Happy September. The fall is coming, and I'm so excited for some cooler weather and some fall vegetables. So I look forward to any comments that you leave below. Let me know what you think about the garden, what you think about these stone walls. Do you have any advice for stone walls for all you people who have ever built stone walls before? My stone walls don't leak because I use lots of mortar, but we have only one bed where we didn't use mortar, and I prefer the beds that do have mortar. So if you have any advice around that, let me know. If you have any advice about raising rabbits in a colony, I would love to hear that as well. Yeah, I love to see your comments. So have a great day, and I'll catch y'all next time.